Hi, I'm Scott. I'm a Quiet Place fan.
Hi, I'm Senthil, and I'm a Bird Box fan.
So the two of us have decided, since we disagree, we're going to start watching as many horror movies as we can and come up with a new way of rate them. Come join us. Hey, Synthel, how you doing?
Fantastic. How about you, Scott?
I'm doing really well. Synthel, I've got an exciting movie, and I know that you liked it as much as I did, and it's just a lot of fun. It is the 2015 Bite, directed by Chad Archibald. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, and for our viewers, love this film.
I absolutely did. This is classic horror, and regardless of budget, this had everything you look for in a horror movie, and at the same time, it pushes boundaries in a way that may not settle well with a lot of the audience, but I thought it was fantastic.
So when this film opened, and the reason this film became, I wouldn't say popular, because a lot of micro budget horror films don't become popular, but this one got a lot of buzz because there were ambulances brought to the theater because people were fainting from the basically the effects of this film. And Synthel, frankly, this film is well acted. The start of this film is a little slow, and we're going to go into that a little bit, but they used every dollar well for the effects, because I'm going to tell you right now, the effects are awesome.
Not only are they spectacular, but they use one set that they
Yes.
clearly spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears building, and then they reuse that same set in multiple scenes that work really well. So ultimately, it's a limited setting movie that they did a great job of. The effects, I don't know how they pulled it. I'd love to talk to the director and find out how much money they spent, but the effects were just visually startling.
Not only that, they were so real. There are scenes in that film where basically there is the slime and eggs are dripping off the tables, and you're like, that is disgusting, but so real. It was so real.
It was, and what was really impressive, you talked about the performances, the female lead, that she went through clearly a lot to
Yes.
make the movie, and what they did to that character, and what she continued to pull off really great performance despite all the goo and the gruesome nature of the effects, practical effects, no
Yes.
CGI. I'm impressed with what she did.
So, Cynthia, one of the things that I love the most about this film, as goofy as this sounds, was the clicking noises she started to make. And I have been trying to figure out how the hell they did, because it was and then her head would tick.
Twitches, it was great.
Yeah. And good God, it was great. It was like, and I'm going to say this, it was like Heath Ledger's little tongue flick when he was playing the Joker.
Yeah.
She did so well with the little, it was so well done. Now, here's the thing, though, for everybody watching this, Bite gets really good about a third of the way through the movie. You spend about a third of the movie buildup. Cynthia, what takes place in the third that our viewers are going to need to get through in order to get to where, the real horror starts to take place?
Very early, they're on vacation, and while on vacation, she gets bit by something and she doesn't know what it is. And so initially, it starts off as a very unassuming, low budget standard movie.
Yeah,
you don't really know what you're going to get until she really starts to feel the effects of whatever it was that bit her, and that's when the story really explodes. There were some elements of that I thought the story aspect of it didn't work too well. Specifically, why didn't she call the doctor? She waited forever to call the doctor. If I get bit by something and then I know it's infected, I'm going to rush to the urgent care. That was a little bit odd. I thought that made the story go. The other elements that were kind of odd and didn't work for me were when she has visitors into her apartment, and her apartment looks like hell, literally.
Oh, yes.
And the most gruesome, and nobody seems to be disturbed by the fact that they're walking into the most gruesome pit of hell that you could possibly imagine. And the smell is horrible, and they continue to walk in the apartment. And so that part didn't work for me, but outside of those elements, fantastic job.
So one of the reasons why, and so I don't know if anybody out there, you are a Hoarders fan, right? I watch Hoarders because I'm obsessive compulsive, and it terrifies me that people can live like that. And
Yeah.
so why, and maybe it was because I've seen so many Hoarder episodes that didn't bother me as much, is because you see people who live in that all the time. I mean, not to the effects like this. I mean, this was so,
Yeah.
but I think that's basically what he was saying is that he, the spiral down. And I think it's important to note why everybody was basically not as that she spirals down for a pretty big reason at the beginning of this film. And Cynthia, you and I were talking about this before we started recording, and I like what you were saying, because this is something that we see a lot, especially when it is a female lead character. And it's the whole Puritan idea. And I loved what you were talking about. Share with our viewers what you were talking about.
Yeah, what I thought what was interesting in driving the story is that the story starts to really revolve around the fact that she's going to get engaged and she's on vacation. Not really vacation, she's on a bachelorette party.
Yeah.
While she's on a bachelor party, she does things that she regrets. And it kind of seems to me, especially when the future mother-in-law comes in and gives her the whole riot act for behaving in a way that she didn't consider very, very pure. And it seems like she's being punished for her actions ultimately. Yes. And that's the net effect of it. On the other hand, a significant percentage of the movie is, she clearly did things that she shouldn't have. She's having premarital sex. And so as a result, all these horrible things are happening to her. But the story does get flipped. It becomes more of a revenge tale near the end of the movie.
Yeah, it does. But Cynthia, what I thought was interesting about what you were saying is that is a common theme throughout movies that we've watched, like Midsommar, The Nest that we just recently reviewed. And if we go backwards and look at these, where the female lead becomes this grotesque figure of herself, right? Where she is punished for wanting to have her own life, because it was obvious in this movie that the relationship between the two was not strong. Right? It wasn't strong. So it was fascinating to me when you brought that up, because then it suddenly opened my mind up and I went, oh my God, you're right. A lot of the films we watch where it's the female who becomes this monster, she's punished because she wants to become her own person. This is her punishment.
It really does come across that way. Even the previous movie that we talked about, The Nest.
Yes.
Really, all that poor woman wants is to get a job and have a life and be independent. And her punishment ends up being gruesome breeding for the insects that ultimately take over her. So common theme in both of these.
Yes, insects is a common theme, and the female as the birther, right? The one who's giving birth to monstrosities, right? Which is a whole subgenre on its own, right? Rosemary's Baby, the whole 9 yards, right? The female lead being the host of, I'm thinking Prince of Darkness by John Carpenter, right? This evil manifestations, right? Phenomenal when you start thinking of that. Not so much if you're a female, but
yeah. The flip in this movie is that all of those characters who give her a hard time for her choices ultimately don't make it.
No, they don't. And in gruesome ways, they don't make it. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. So Cynthia, if somebody asked, hey, should I watch this? What would you say?
I would wholeheartedly recommend it with one qualifier. I would tell them that to be aware of the fact that when this movie was first shown, people not only fainted, but they threw up. I would recommend you not eat or drink anything before or after you watch the movie. And this is probably one of the few times where I found two women kissing totally a gruesome stomach-turning event.
Yeah, but it was because of the whole, I mean.
I would recommend it with the qualifiers to be prepared. This is horror in its most gruesome sense. The practical effects are outstanding, and I would still watch it. I would recommend it.
I'd watch, and actually, to be fair, this is the second time I've watched this film. I enjoyed it as much as I did. And for those of you watching, when we talk about gruesome, we're not talking people getting nails shoved in their eyes. We're not talking that torture porn horror stuff. We're not talking Saw. We're talking visual effects that are so well done, and basically body horror, where her transformations, the apartment that she lives in transformation, what she is becoming. A lot of people basically look at this as The Fly, as a nod towards The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. I would agree.
I absolutely would. You know, if you're going to take The Fly and make it was a small budget to start off with, but an independent film that didn't have commercial constraints in terms of what they could and couldn't show, this would be a difficult movie to sell on the big screen because of how disturbingly gross many aspects of it is. But that goes to how creative the director was and how great the performers were able to sell it.
And Simple, this is why you and I are doing these micro budget horror films. There are diamonds in the rough out there that you can't believe actually were done for the amount of money they have. I mean, they are well done. This movie, it is known as we could not find actual figures on it, but you know, they call it a micro budget film, which usually means micro budget is under $1 million. So we're making the assumption this was under $1 million. And if you could pull this off for under $1 million, I would love to see a big name director do what this guy did for under $1 million. It's just unheard of.
The final transformation of the main character was so convincingly looking that it looked like big budget makeup effects. It was pretty awesome.
And Cynthia, I'll say right before we leave, I love kind of the little snarky ending, right? I thought the way that he ended this film was damn near perfect.
I agree. They did a great job all around. So I would give it. I think it's one of the few times where I agreed with the reviews that I've seen for the movie.
Yep,
I would definitely recommend it.
Well, Cynthia, thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you again.
See you all next time.